Can have a look at what the French newspapers are talking about now. Bell Lupton's here. The story that is dominating is a strike. This is the second strike this week. We were talking about Germany going back to work, not here in France.
On Tuesday, it was the turn of all the teachers, but today it's going to be the medical professions' turn. So they are all taking to the street. Every single health union in the whole of France has called on its members to strike. So Libération, their front page, is leading with this. This is the left-leaning paper here in France, saying they're talking of a reorganisation of the working week. So the Libération calls it explosive proposals from the government on a sector that's already on the edge. So its headline there, Dernière chance avant le burnout. I mean, we understand that in English. Last chance before a burnout. So according to critics, the head of Paris's hospitals wants to review the 35-hour working week in hospitals. Now, the 35-hour working week in France is sort of sacrosanct, essentially. Sure. It was introduced in 2000 by Lionel Jospin's government. Sarkozy, when he came in, tried or vowed to abolish it and was met with absolute uproar, so was never able to do that. So the head of Paris's hospitals says it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to change the 35-hour working week in hospitals or that they'll extend it. But yes, he does say hospitals will have to reorganise in order to cut costs and to avoid job cuts. According to Libération, Marisol Touraine, health minister, swears up and down that the symbolic 35-hour week won't be touched. But Libération says her declarations are met with general scepticism because when credit is low, when demands are rising, and when the workforce can only just meet those demands, it's difficult to see another way out, they say, other than a negotiated increase in that working hour week or the working week, despite the fact that the intensity of work in hospitals already leaves very little time even for a coffee break or going to the loo.
Yeah. OK, well, that face-off, if you like, between the left and reality already playing out in the education sector. That's despite Tuesday's strikes in the education world. The government yesterday went ahead, published its school reforms proposals, didn't it? It
certainly did. The government made up its mind to push through this project of reforms by the start of the school year in 2016. It didn't bow to pressure from strikers. So Le Parisien, a tabloid here in Paris, this one, Aujourd'hui en France, it leads with school reform, like it or lump it, ça passe ou ça casse. So the government gave a show of force, it says, in persisting with these reforms, despite the numbers of teachers that came out on the streets on Tuesday. So the government says, or in this article, it says the government sees the strikes as half-hearted and even says that some of the left actually agree with some of these reforms, so they're going to push them through anyway. Now, the paper even has a nice cartoon describing this, and it depicts the government essentially as not listening to those teachers. So you've got two teachers talking to the education minister, Najat Vallaud-Belkacem, and they say here, you say you're open to dialogue, yet you're passing the reforms anyway. And then the other asks, did you take bilingual classes? Now, that's referring to the government's two-facedness in all of this, but also a little in-joke there, which is that the education minister pictured there has actually, one of her reforms is to abolish bilingual classes. OK, bearded teachers there anyway in that cartoon. The former president, Nicolas Sarkozy, he's weighed in on this as well, hasn't he? He sure has. So Sarkozy has said that François Hollande and his Prime Minister Manuel Valls have been contemptuous. They've essentially shown contempt towards teachers in choosing the path of reform. So on Le Figaro, which is a conservative paper, so would chime in with Sarkozy's views normally, it says here, the leader opposition says he's in the same camp as the teachers, at least insofar as criticising this quite forceful pushing through of these reforms, something the conservative paper agrees with. Now, France's Socialist Party, Hollande's party, this is, of course, also in the midst of an internal battle with the far left criticising Hollande's government for straying too far to the centre-right. The Socialist Party is voting today on one of four motions that will then be presented at Congress, at the party's conference, if you like, in June. Now, the issue here is trying to work out what direction the Socialist Party is going to take over the next few years. So L'Opinion, which you see here, it's a pro-business paper, and it illustrates on its front page the Socialist Party going round in circles. The Socialist Party's lost a lot of its members, especially on the left, with electoral failures that have happened at the local level and also at the European level. And L'Opinion sees the discussions at the moment as nothing more than an excuse for the party to put pressure on that little segment of the party that really does agree with it. So it's essentially it's that snake eating itself, as you see there.
Belle, thanks very much. Belle Lupton with the French Press Review for us here on France 24.